2, 3.
Save Our Kids is an opportunity for you to be introduced to a few school and student helpers. If there is a space or a place to improve the lives of our children, we know a few families and business owners who have made it their business to answer the call for help and provide a solution to those challenges that impact our children and eventually us all. We could not just choose one kiddo to save, so we are asking for your help to reach more. Join Keeping Your Kids Safe as we identify some of the problems and share a few solutions that have been created just for you.
Okay, we made it. We are live. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for coming today and hanging out with me.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So I normally start with sharing some of the stats because there's a reason why we're all here. So I created this opportunity for all of us to talk a little bit about what our businesses are, what solution we're providing, what problem we're solving. And we're here to support the educational group. So all of our educational leaders, those ones who are out there who are having a really hard time or need some additional support, we're here to offer that as a solution. So we are the solutions to the challenges that those educators are having. So just to give you a little bit of information, right? There are 53 million children K through 12 that go to school every single school year, right? Out of that number, you talk about 44% actually talk a little bit about depression. 37% report anxiety. 40 to 60% of them have extreme test anxiety. Do we know that 90% of the students are sleep deprived? And a lot are claiming that there's about a year and a half behind in their normal studies, right? So again, 53 million children go to school every single school year. That number is steadily trending down. We have 4 million teachers across 90,000 schools in the United States, and 35% of them want to quit. That may also include administrators, right? But that equals down to 18 million families. So if we take a look at the numbers, we're looking at 2 to 3 children per family group that make up the 53 million that are in our educational system today. Each one of you have been invited to come here and share about your solution because, again, this is not about finger pointing. This is not about saying how bad any system is or how better another system is. Mm-hmm. All we're here to say is that we notice that there's a challenge. The statistics let us know that. Our passion and our hearts are with the children, and we want to be able to share that. And the only way to do that is to bring awareness to what we do. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and we'll start with, I forgot who I said was first, Catherine.
Again, thanks for having all of us here today, Tabitha. This is terrific. My name is Catherine Chadwick, and I'm a mental fitness trainer. I'm a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse now for over 40 years. I don't know how that happened, but here I am. So I am also a practitioner of applied positive psychology. I am a certified life mastery consultant, also known as a transformational life coach. And I am, the creator of the Sunshine Quotient, and also the creator of Uni Umi, who came to be with me today. Where am I going? Right there. So how fun is that? Uni Umi is your sunshine ambassador. And the reason that I am here is that I love to work with parents, grandparents, CEOs, presidents, camp counselors, anybody who has contact with children. And that's all of us, because we're light beings, we're energy beings, and understanding that we are part of the universal energy and how to work with that energy. That's one of the basic, what I refer to as rules of the game. And most of us are not talking that much about it. It's how we operate. We're a body, mind, spirit connection. We're a body, mind, spirit unit. And learning how to work with this makes a huge difference. And what Tabitha was referring to in regard to test anxiety and sleep deprivation and depression and all of these things, when people aren't aware of how much actual control that they have over their life experience and their health, it's easy to get battered around by all of these circumstances. And we all know that we're bombarded with all of these stimuli that are coming at us all the time. And so this is what I like to do, because it's important to me. And why do I do it? Because nobody was talking to me about any of this when I was growing up. And just simple breath work and understanding how the basic anatomy and physiology of how your body and mind work together, and the breath work of stimulating that vagus nerve and stimulating, that parasympathetic, that calming side of your nervous system. That's huge. Mindfulness is a beautiful practice to work with and to create as a wonderful habit, because it raises your level of self-awareness, and we're all vibrational beings. And when we operate at higher vibrations, we're in those higher vibrations of happiness and contentment and satisfaction and joy and adventure and curiosity, and all of those higher vibrations that really open up possibilities for people. So that's what I do, and I just want everybody to know about it.
I think that's amazing. I think the reason why when I met you, I was like, okay, great. Like, you kept bringing up, I felt so good when talking to you. And so I know that for sure that a lot of other people will probably feel the same way, when you can kind of incorporate that with a child. So thank you for that. That is awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to go to Jason.
Hey.
Go ahead. Let us know what you're up to. What's this about?
All right. So I'm Jason Morton. And according to research, the number one predictor of school quality is the leadership of the principal. Yes, studies show that today's school leaders feel overwhelmed by the pushes and pulls of school leadership, while at the same time providing solutions to the communities they serve. Hence, Empowered Support. That's what I started, Empowered Support. We are here to support school districts and schools nationally that serve at-risk kids or communities. This includes credit recoveries, dropout prevention, and recovery schools. We provide hope by providing solutions. There are things you can do that will increase your students' engagement, build safe learning environment, increase retention, increase attendance, which in the long run will increase staff retention and ultimately enrollment. Our mission at Empower Support is to turn all of your aspirations into tangible realities. We have 3 tiers of support. We offer a 1-day PD. We offer a half a school year support, and we can then also support you for a whole school year. The guarantee of the program is that you will make your money back, because you will increase enrollment. So there you go. We're here to help you keep your sanity.
Keep your sanity. Okay, so I'm saving my questions towards the end, but there are definitely things I would like you to think about, is that when we talk about 35% of 4 million teachers or administrators want to quit being a teacher, we're going to go ahead. I would like you to think about that a little bit and kind of share with us some of the things that might be helpful in helping that to not be a reality. All right. So then we're going to go over here to Dave. Hi, Dave.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. Come on.
Well, my name is Dave Reich. I'm one of the co-founders of Skyward RX. We have our Abundabox program that we work with school districts across the United States. Our goal really is to provide resources to students and their families that they may not know that they have access to. Everything is provided to them at no cost. It is covered by insurance. So as long as they're covered by Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, CHIP, commercial or private insurance, veterans insurance, anything like that, it covers this program. Everything we do is free to our school districts. And our goal is to help the students and their families get access to resources. So the boxes contain things like healthcare goods and services. Those students that are on free and reduced lunch, we qualify them for the Affordable Connectivity Program. So they get a free tablet with unlimited talk, text, and data so that we can get access to better resources like telehealth, nutritional resources. We've got food programs where those same students that are getting free and reduced lunch are getting free food cards that are prepaid. If their parents or guardians have trouble getting out of the house, we've got Meals on Wheels that are delivering to them. And another big thing that we're doing is around mental health, things that Catherine brought up. Depression and anxiety are big deals these days. We have the only fully integrated FDA cleared cognitive assessment tool that students and families can take. It's covered by insurance, and it establishes a baseline, but it detects things like it looks for reasons for behavior changes, depression, anxiety, concussions for our student athletes to make sure that we're not putting athletes back on the field before they've been properly healed, things like that. Our system is being used at Johns Hopkins in their memory care unit. NASA uses it for their astronauts in pre-flight as well as in space, and the military is using it for concussion testing. So there's a variety of resources that we're bringing to the schools. And the nice thing about our program is that as we deliver these health packs to students and their families each month, it actually generates revenue for the school districts. So we come away with driving new money to the schools to help support all the other things that they need for their students.
I like that. And you know what? I was very glad that you decided to come and share what you're offering, because I think in a lot of cases, again, I have some questions, but a lot of it is around the fact that who is eligible for this and how much the school does not have to, there is no strings attached to them actually joining a program. So I want to make sure that we share a little bit more of that with everyone who's here to listen.
Absolutely.
All right. So now it's me. So I bring everyone together because ultimately all of us are out here trying to save our kids in one way, shape, or form. So it's really good for us to kind of all come together and share a similar platform. So for me, my niece got put on the wrong school bus twice in the same school year. What I noticed is her circumstances were not any different from other people's. Some of the differences were she was 5. Other differences that she came home, right? That does not happen for everybody else. And as often as we have been told that this is not a real problem, it actually is a real big problem. The problem is that some of the parents don't know. So we created a platform that allows each child to effectively communicate their way home. You as a parent will get a text message during the process. The administrators will get an instantaneous notification letting them know whether or not they're sending that kiddo in the right direction or the wrong direction. Those things are really important because when we talk about dismissal, we talk about the fact that the most vulnerable time of a child's day is dismissal. Unfortunately, it is dismissal, and we are all very much aware of it. So I'm very thankful for everybody who has decided to come and hang out with me for a little bit to share a little bit more. Oh, I forgot to take it off. Sorry. To share a little bit more about what we're doing and how we're doing this. So we're going to kind of do a little bit of popcorn here and there to ask certain questions. You can ask questions of each other to get more clarification. We want to stick with more of the W's, the what, when, where, and why type of situation. And because we want to stay a little bit away from the how. So then that way other people can kind of lean into asking questions. So for all of those ones who are listening, we do welcome questions and comments. They are very much welcomed here. So one of the first questions is, Jason, so when we look at the numbers and say 35% of 4 million teachers want to quit, is there something that we as parents, as supporters or things like that can help support and help to solve that problem? Because that's a cry for help for sure.
I definitely think you're right. I definitely think you're right about that. I think it's that there's many parts to it, but the two parts that we can definitely address is empowering while at the same time taking away the feeling of exclusion. You don't want people to feel like they're isolated, but you want them to feel empowered. And I feel like we're losing that by so many systems and like just bad practices are in the school, and we're stretching our teachers too thin. We're just stretching them too thin. And I think that we can do better by empowering an all hands on deck approach on fewer goals, more focused goals aligned with strong communication systems.
So when you talk about communication, though, and feel free, everybody, you can just chime in, right? But when you talk about communication, are we talking about communication from leadership to those who are doing the work? Or are you talking about from parents? How does that work? Because in my experience, communication is the key of a lot of things, and it breaks down a lot. It breaks down a lot of walls, but it also helps to build a lot of walls too. And I'm just trying to understand what do we need to know or understand when it comes to that communication portion. Yes, you.
Yeah, yeah, I got it. Okay. Yeah. I
Yes,
believe that
you.
you
This
build
is
out.
you. This is you right now. We
Oh
get
yeah, no,
everybody get
okay. Yeah, no, I believe we build out communication systems when you know what's expected, what's going to be discussed, and what's discussed consistently. And there's a manner in which you can get a back and forth. And the whole idea of leadership being separate from like teachers are leaders. So like
right.
it's everybody shares in the leadership that we all share in the communication and we all share in the structure. And as we share back and forth, now we take away that whole thought process is like the beginning of what's wrong. Like teachers are leaders, like parents are
Yeah.
leaders. Like we want to empower everybody to be a part of the solution and building out a school culture that we all want to be a part of.
Right. So, Catherine, you have thoughts around that? Because I know we've had these conversations too. And a lot of it comes down to, again, he mentions being empowered. So a lot of the teachers, to a certain degree, maybe they don't have a sense of empowerment. So how are we able to, how are you able to provide some guidance as to how they can improve that for themselves? Because ultimately, this stuff trickles down to the children. So if we don't kind of get this stuff under control, we find it that our children are actually reaping the benefits of this.
Well, it is interesting because I think that if everybody really does some self-development work, right? And I don't think self-development has to be a millstone. I think life is an adventure, and let's learn how to actually live it and learn to live from the inside out. Because when you're coming from that space, your communication is so much easier, and you learn to think with intention. I envision teaching, parents and teachers and administrators, I envision people developing a morning practice, right? And talk about these things, to choose a couple of words each day. How are you going to be today? How are you going to show up, right? And that is a how, but what words are you choosing, right? Like, for instance, today I'm curious. Today I am bold. Teaching kids that their mind, the concept of your mind is like a garden. And what thought seeds are you planting? Because what you focus on is what you get. This is how we operate. And when everybody is really focusing and being intentional with their thought process and understanding how it is we operate with this body, mind, spirit connection, everybody is so much more open because there's not that much room for judgment at that point, right? And we're all working together. And so I think that is imperative, to have a basic understanding. And if I can see in an elementary school or anywhere, right? Everybody gets together for 10 minutes every morning. Let's do some breath work. Let's understand about that vagus nerve and stimulating that calming side of the nervous system, getting in tune with ourselves. And what are our words for today? What are we choosing? Who are we choosing to show up as? And that sets everybody on a much different tone than everybody just getting up and not paying attention to who we really are and what we are. And so many people just feel like they're shot out of a cannon every morning. And taking the time to develop a mindfulness practice and really be in tune and being able to focus from so many distractions that don't really serve us, I think that makes a big difference for people.
I like what you're saying, because one of the things that I know, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, is the fact that I suffer with test anxiety really bad. And to the point where, if it was strictly on the test, I would just fail everything. And I've never understood why. But being able to have like mindfulness practices, or have someone to have taught me how to manage my breath and my anxiety and things like that, I might have been able to have a better outcome when it comes to test taking and things like that. But we do notice that there is an uptick in a lot of students struggling with that test anxiety, because I mean, a lot of it is we are teaching to the test. You're either a pass or a fail in some of those cases. That actually helps to generate and manifest that stress in those students, where now they struggle with those tests. So I kind of see where you're able to help them to balance that out. And what kind of impact do you think that that everybody would have, or it would have, if they would adopt more of those practices prior to going into some of these standardized testings?
I think that there has to be an uptick in feeling good about it, right? Because it's not just getting to the test. It's imperative to be focused and to be calm in order to absorb information. The other thing that comes along with being mindful and raising your level of self-awareness is you also become in tune with what your strong suits are. What are your strong character suits? What are you interested in? What really lights you up, right? And so I think that has a lot to play along with it too, because I think that as far as curriculum and whatnot, I mean, yes, there are certain things that are useful, but there is so much more information that's practical information, life skills. Let's work on some of those tactical skills, things that people can do with their hands, activities that people can learn, from being out in nature. A few field trips are wonderful, but they're not really conducive to long-term learning along that line.
It's more experiential than it is long-term learning.
This is true. I get that for sure. Oh my God, there's a question here, but there's a comment here, and I can tell you that she says, I am one of the 35% not returning to the classroom, and I'm very positive, popular, successful teacher for 15 years, 20 counting my preschool business. I'm burned out from all of the pressures. I love teaching growth mindset even before I knew I had the name. And so she continues, right? And I really appreciate Amanda's comment, because it does go right into line with saying that, see, they're dealing with a lot of pressures. Families are dealing with a lot of pressures, and kids are dealing with a lot of pressures. But I don't see us making a whole lot of effort or movement in that direction to kind of address that. Because what we're doing is we're adding more pressure to the teachers, and then adding more pressure to which in turn adds more pressure to the students. And then our outcomes are not outcomes that are favorable for the student or the families. And it makes it for a very sad situation. And I think that that's one of the reasons why Coming Together is that key point for me. Go ahead, Dave.
To add to that, so in my world, we work with a lot of school districts, but we also work with a lot of healthcare facilities. And there's a lot of interaction in between those. And you want to talk about, teachers and educators that are burnt out because they've had lots of stress over the last several years, much more so than, they've always had it, but it's been heightened over the last several years. Healthcare workers have had exactly the same thing, right? So we've got hospitals, during COVID that were paying nurses, $200 an hour to drop off Tylenols in rooms because nobody wanted to be in the hospital because they were afraid to be there, right? And so, it's I understand the burnout and that that's going to be a challenge as we go forward. From the mental health side, it's not just kids, right? It's the teachers, it's the administrators, it's all the faculty, right? And it really does touch a lot of them. Our goal really is to address, you brought up a couple of things that hits home for me. One of the things was testing and how stressful it becomes when you go into a test, and, whether you're really prepared or whether you're not prepared, just the actual physical taking that test becomes very stressful. And so we try to address that with part of our program is, when we're giving out the tablets for the Affordable Connectivity Program, we load on tutoring software. We do SAT prep. We do financial literacy programs. We do a variety of mental health programs on there. So there's a lot of things that we're trying to do to give everyone resources to be able to have access to that. Even in the sense of, like, when I work with schools, we do medication programs for school districts for their faculty. Because I look at it and I see people that will make a decision over whether or not to take their meds over a $10 copay. Because typically teachers have pretty good health coverage, which is nice. I mean, I'm thankful for that. But they also aren't compensated as well as they should be. And so now all of a sudden you've got a teacher who's going to say, well, do I take that med or do I use that $10 for something else that maybe my family needs? That frightens me. Like those kinds of decisions really frighten me, because now I've got a person that's making a potentially disastrous medical decision over $10. So we're putting in programs in place so that we eliminate copays for everybody. So, like, whether they're a student and their family, a family can buy all of their medications through us for $15 a month, and they pay 0 copays. So, and we can make it really inexpensive. And if we can tie that, excuse me, with mental health resources and at-home diagnostic testing,
somebody has feedback,
and other things that give us access, then that helps these folks live a better life, have better mental, outlook on the way things are going. I look at it as, part of our program is to deal with nutrition. We've got a lot of students that are on free and reduced lunch. We've got kids that are coming to school that if they don't eat at school, they may not eat that.
Yeah.
That's scary, and so part of our program is giving out food cards. So, like, the state of West Virginia schools get our boxes. And so the students come home with a box every month. They get it delivered to their house, but they get a box every month, and it has a prepaid food card in it. They can now take it to the grocery and buy healthy foods. So, if we can start addressing all of the social determinants of health, is kind of the way I look at it, is, there's much more to being healthy than just feeling good, right? There's more to being healthy mentally. There's more to being healthy financially, right? Nutritionally. And if we can address nutrition, finance, mental health, and actual physical health, right, then now we're starting to make a difference in some of these folks' lives. We have to start it at the student age, because we have to get them into those habits now. Because when they're my age, when they're 50, right, those habits are already ingrained in. Right, I'm going to eat my Nutter Butters because I like my Nutter Butters, right? Whether they tell me that I shouldn't be eating them or not, that's just me. But if I can get that child to see that, hey, you shouldn't eat Nutter Butters every day, it's probably not a good idea. Take it from me. That we can, their life's going to be better, because they're going to be less obese. They're going to have less childhood diabetes. They're going to have less other medical conditions down the road, or at least be smarter about them, so they're making more proper decisions. And that affects everybody. Now mom and dad are helped, siblings are helped, grandmas and grandpas are helped, right? And so our program, when we take it to a school, we care about the students a lot. But we also care about their families, their grandmas and grandpas, and neighbors, right? And everybody that comes through it, it all benefits that same school district. So that's why schools like working with us, is because we can help them financially, and we can help the people that they care about, their students and their families.
So whenever you guys are ready to come off mute, you can. I agree 100%, because I remember, so the food thing is a big thing, because breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It gets you started, but when you start with sugar, you're going to crash very shortly thereafter. And some of the things that we were taught how to do as we were growing up is actually coming back to bite us in a way. But just getting them used to having a healthier meal, but being able to say, this is a healthier way of living or eating, and then their bodies feel better, and then they behave better in school, and then they learn better and everything like that. So yes, I'm all for that. Catherine, go ahead.
Yeah, and absolutely. And to add to that, the research shows that we think anywhere between 18,000 and 70,000 thoughts in one day. And about 90% of those are the same as the day before and the day before, the day before, and last year, and who knows how long this has been going on. And the other 10% to be aware of is that over 90% of human health issues, conditions, and illnesses are lifestyle induced. So let's absolutely incorporate healthy eating and having a goal, to think intentionally, to have a direction, right? And so I think that is imperative for people to start thinking intentionally, and to really understand that they have much more control over how they operate than anybody has really been programmed or led to believe most of the time up until now.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really big, really, really big, because I feel like, look, this is the day, this is when you get it. I just felt it. It's so good. So right. So we have Catherine working on mindset and behaviors, breath work, and getting you in tune with your body and making sure that it is working the way you want it to. You got Dave saying, okay, let me help you with your mental health and your nutrition and your wellness. So then that way you can go out and conquer the world. And then we have Jason, who's here saying, okay, but I got the leadership on lock. I'm trying to put the leadership together so that they can have what they need in order to have a successful school year with all of our students involved. And then I'm always bringing up the rear, because I'm always on the dismissal side of things, because I'm the one to make sure that every student goes home the way the parents intended. There's never an opportunity for your child to be misplaced or lost, or somebody to say, oh, well, it's just a simple this or a simple that. At the end of the day, look at us all coming together to say, there are challenges that this industry is facing, but here are the solutions that are right in front of you. I would love to be able to see people to contact Dave and say, okay, I want to know, because I have 70% free and reduced lunch in my school. How can I get your services so that I can help my children? Because I'm in a Title I school, and that Title I school means I have less money coming in to help support my kids. So what do I need to do? If I have to find it elsewhere, let's see, right? And that's something that Dave can offer. And then Jason, if you're running into retention and things like that, they're like, okay, well, there's a better way. So we do have a question for you. You ready? So James asked a question. Remember the book, It Takes a Village to Raise a Child? Love the form, and would be great if we return focus back to our communities and support. Educate assist with one issue of teacher resignation around the current library, school board political activity, and break the noise and regroup. We would love to have Kicks First to be a core for us to move forward. So does everybody remember that book? It Takes a Village?
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on that? Because that's one of the things that I keep talking about. It's a community. It's our collective responsibility. These children don't stay children forever, and they become our employees, our spouses, our relatives along the way. So what do? What are your thoughts?
I think identifying, as far as from where I stand, identifying who you're educating in that community, who are you educating, and building out tiers of support. That way everybody gets what they need, and also everybody gets that personal human touch, especially as you start having more at-risk factors of losing the kid. The faster we can jump on top of the issues and provide the wraparound services that you guys are doing a wonderful job of describing, by the way. The faster we can offer these opportunities and hope, the more we'll see solutions being provided, and we'll see pathways out.
So what are your thoughts? I mean, as far as the village is concerned, because part of the reason why you guys have been invited here was because I decided to start to create my own village of supporters for the schools, because I've gotten those things where we don't need your help. I've gotten pushback. Hold up, wait, you don't need my help? I'm sorry. Did I just not see you on the news? Right? Or how about I just got a phone call from a parent that says, hey, this is what's happening. I'll give you my example. This is one of the crazy ones. So Dave, you'll like this, right? So for schools, my children went through public school, no problem. So they were like, Mom, come and eat lunch with me. Come eat lunch with me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm gonna go sit in little chairs with little people. But I did it because you love those little ones. So you're gonna, okay, I'll go ahead and make lunch. I'll come and sit with you and have lunch. Do you want me to bring something? No, no, no. We're going to eat out of the cafeteria. No problem. I show up, I sit down, they bring food, and I said, "Oh my gosh, what is that?" And they were like, "It's a Frito pie." And I was like, "First of all, I don't know what that is. I don't understand why it's in a bag, and I can't do this." And I was like, "Is this all you guys are eating?" And it just so happened to be that day, it was all they were really eating. And they just had their whatever the rest of the meal is, which is really nothing, right? That day was the last day they were able to eat in the cafeteria. What I realized was that when that was sending them to school to eat a lunch, I thought it was more of a well-balanced meal. What I learned was that it was not a well-balanced meal, and no wonder they were coming home and like devouring the kitchen and fighting over what they needed to eat next because they were hungry, right? And so that's why when you told me what you offered on some of the support that you were offering, and the fact that it's going to the lower income, I mean that it kind of gauges around the free and reduced lunches. I found that very important because when the pandemic started, a lot of kids did not get fed. They were struggling to find out where they were going to get their next meal. And that's because, from a community standpoint, when I was little, and I'm not saying that our lives are same now, I'm not correlating the two. When I was young, if my mom was not home, my neighbor would make us a sandwich. She would say, "Come in here, let's take care of you." But that's not what we have here anymore. So how do we get back to the village? Oh, Dave, you're on. Hang on. You're on mute.
Yeah, I agree with you. Having resources available is the biggest challenge. And that's why we work with Meals on Wheels for those adults who can't get out of the house very easily. We also have prepaid food cards for those who can, right? So we try to address it from every aspect because we don't know what the situation at home may be. And so, if that means that mom and dad can't get out for whatever reason, maybe they're disabled, right? And then that we want to make sure that that those kids have good food available for them at all times. I actually have a team member that their child goes to school in West Virginia, and he said, "Yeah, it's unbelievable." He said, "My daughter came home and she's got this box and it's got a prepaid food card. It's like $100 on it." He's like, "Nah, I don't need the money, but I'm glad for it. I mean, because I know that there's a lot of people out here that are getting the exact same card that definitely need it, and I'm certainly going to use it for healthy foods, right, for my family." So it was useful no matter what. But those are the kinds of things that get overlooked, right? And that's when it comes to healthcare related, the challenges that we see are people that the kids are learning from mom and dad. If mom and dad weren't taught to take care of themselves very well and eat right and take their meds and do all those kinds of things, well, then these kids aren't going to know that either. They're going to do exactly what mom and dad does. And so we have to start getting into ways to address that.
Right.
Well, I agree with you there, Dave. And, because people do what they know, exactly what you said. And they do what they've been taught. And getting back to it takes a village. What I'm getting from this conversation is there's so much segregation between the school system and a lot of the rest of the community and everything that else is going on as far as, it's segregated from the healthcare, it's segregated from the families, and people have expectations of what each segment is going to be doing, but we all really learn from each other. And
Right.
So I think it's imperative that we all up the ante as far as communication. And I'm delighted to know what you two guys do, because I know people I can introduce you to, and let's get the conversation going. As my friend Meredith said, let's get this party started.
Yes, she does say that, right? I think it's great. And that's the reason why this is so important, right? Because at the end of the day, how do we solve the communication problem that we have? Because that's the breakdown of a lot of things, from nutrition, from the budget down to the curriculum, right? And we shouldn't be afraid of the village. that's what got us, a lot of us here, and it served us well. Now, I'm not saying that they weren't, things weren't dysfunctional or that things weren't a little sideways, but ultimately coming together is actually the answer to a lot of these questions. So Jason, because you are the leader of the schools, so what type of communication would be well received from a parent, from a family, to say, hey, what do we need? I would like to see something different, or what expectations should we actually have as parents? Because I think there might be two different questions for sure, but it's very important, because one thing is, how do you want us to communicate with you? And two, what are the things that we need to communicate?
I think it's about knowing the community in which you serve. If you know the community in which you serve, you're able to connect them to these resources. And then, like, you're providing what's called wraparound services. And wraparound services, now we're not going to be the one-stop shop place, but we're going to outsource a lot of this stuff, but we'll be the connector. Schools can be the connectors to heal the community. Schools can play that role, but it's very important to teach administrators, like, that is their job, is to go out and meet Catherine, go out and provide opportunity with Dave, meet with you and talk about how to get these resources in the school. You can be the connector, and it's being that connecting piece in the community that provides hope for the whole community. Right? It gets that kid through, and getting that kid through sometimes means getting that parent through.
Right.
Yeah. So
we
that's
always
good.
encourage hospitals and schools to work together, because from our world, they all make sense, and the hospital can very much reach out to the school and help their parents and their families in general, and it's usually a very beneficial relationship for the two of them. The school gets help, the hospital gets helped as well, so there's a lot of value in that.
So that's good. So when we're going to, is there a specific people that you think we should want to talk to? I don't know. So Dave, your schools and hospitals, or schools and doctor's office, are mandatory reports. So that means that if they see something, they have to say something, because it ultimately connected to their license, right? So, so is your point of entry anything that we can share with, you can share with us? Or
usually we work through the superintendents, or depending on how large the school is. If it's a really large school like Fairfax or Chicago or other places like that are just massive, of hundreds of thousands of students, they may have like student health services or other student service, student engagement folks. But typically we're working straight with the superintendents, because they can put it out for the entire district. Outside of that, we work with states at the state level, with the governor or others that allow us to do multiple districts. Like in Ohio here, we're talking with like school board association, right? So that's a way for us to address it from a school board association to all districts, rather than one district at a time. So there's ways to do it. Both ways work, and it just depends on
people in the community. So James mentions include the churches and libraries as a core of the community. I think that's when we all sit down and have conversations about what happened and what has changed, and being able to get like an accurate understanding of history, and then what's worked and what doesn't work, right? So that's one thing. But then we also have a suggestion. So Diana's saying we wanted to comment a little bit more about Amanda's comment when it comes to time. She's being paid for her students' performance in math and reading, and these other resources that are being made available for mental health are taken away from the time she had to teach the fundamentals. So how do we deal with that? And that's a really valid point. I don't understand why we're trading one for the other. So
right.
That's a problem all by itself, right? So, okay, Jason, I don't know.
Like you guys already touched on it. I don't believe that we should be trading one for the other. One should actually lead to the increase in the other. You're able to perform better as you become more healthy. Building out time slots to make sure everybody's getting what they need is important. That's a shocking one. Right.
That was hard to hit, So my thing is for the math so you're being, so is there truth that it's a lot of places that are measuring them or paying the teachers per the performance for their math and reading assessments?
Merit pays a thing.
So how is that? Because here's the thing, this thing that's coming around right now, everybody's like, it's you've not failed, or failure is this and failure is that. Here's the way I look at failure. Failure is when you stop, period. When you stop and say, I want to go this direction and I no longer wish to go this direction, it is a complete halt of all effort, right? That's how I look at failure. I look at what we're doing every day is identifying the limits. And I know that there are days in which I really terrible at that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like another brick wall. But at the end of the day, it is just identifying our limits. But what the school is teaching and is pass or fail, right? And then dividing the groups up into their AB status, right? Their grade level status. And that is actually breeding a lot of this anxiety and these things when it comes to that. Is that not, is, would you agree or disagree? All in order to meet testing goals. So you guys are very quiet, but here's the reason why you're here. These things are what you guys work on.
Yeah.
All three of you feed into this. And you're offering a solution that the schools, I really want the schools to know about. And if my passion is in the way, you got to let me know that's where the problem is.
Well, it's interesting because, mental health and wellness and all of this is a mentality. And that, is taught and learned as well. And I think that, and that's such an important baseline because your attitude is involved in everything that you do. And so I don't think that mental health should be eliminated. I think that there has to be ways that we can dip in and out of this during a day to add a little bit of learning here and add a little bit of learning there and build it and keep building it and keep building it and keep encouraging, the better status of how to life skills, really. And so it's just like, wow, okay, why should that be eliminated? Because somebody has to be better at math, or this just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, what if we look at a school day what if we look at a school as a place that can work collaboratively with the parents, and we look at the kid as having an all-day access?
Yep.
So, like, we still can do the school stuff and address Amanda's need to get the kid caught up in language arts and math. But we also start talking to the parents about where can we get these other supports throughout the kid's day. We don't have to squeeze it all in between the hours of school's open.
Right.
We can now
and have to stop at 3 p.m.
Yeah, it doesn't have to stop at 3. Like,
Right.
Your growth as a person does not stop at 3 p.m. But also that also would empower the kid of how life really works.
Yeah.
We are all not trying to solve all our problems between the hours of 8 and 2. Or that's not what we're trying to do. That's not the way. That's not the way you live as an adult. So empowering the kid of who the reality of who they are, their issues, their concerns, and then where can we get help in our community, and empowering those resources to be in and around the school.
Awesome. Yes. And that's where I thought we were going to be, because in all actuality, the way I look at it is that, again, it comes down to, if I say I don't need your help, but I'm telling you I need your help, you can't push me out the door when I come in to help you. So if parents are getting a pushback, and only very certain parents are having an opportunity to join in, how do we bridge that conversation? Because that's where the village is. The school can kind of be the center. Because remember the numbers. 53 million children K through 12 make up approximately 18 million families that are feeding this educational system. So we have got to get to a place where we're having a conversation and we're communicating, and that at 3 o'clock, okay, Jeffrey, you go home now to mom, and mom picks up where school left off at.
And that's where, I mean, as a society, we need to be, right. And then I think that's the challenge I think that we all have is that while we collectively can affect the folks that are in the school and the students that are in the schools while they're in the schools, right, the challenge becomes as soon as they leave those doors at 3:00, are they going to get that support at home, right? You hope that they do, right? And in a lot of families they do, but not every family. And so, our kids, if we're able to start educating the parents on how they can support that next step after 3 p.m., right? And how do they extend it? I think that's going to be the next challenge, is because you got a lot of smart people in the school, right? And that's not saying that the parents aren't, because the parents are a lot of smart people too, but they don't know what they don't know. And so educating them from the time of like, hey, now Johnny's home, right? These are the things that Johnny needs to be able to accomplish while he's at home to be a better human being, right? A better member of society, or better, whatever you want to call it, right? More successful, healthier, happier, all the things, better, faster, stronger, right? All those kinds of things. But that transition has to happen. And I think that's going to be our biggest challenge is let's get the resources to the teachers and administrators, get them to be able to get this ingrained in the kids at a very young age so that they start to own it, that they're living it. And then how do we help the teachers make that transition of education to mom and dad? Because, mom may be a, car sales executive, right? Doesn't know anything necessarily about, whatever that has to do with school and mental health. And I just never had to deal with that. So, we're going to have to be able to prepare them too, to make that transition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's good. I think that you're right about a lot of this. We have to set the expectations for everybody involved, because a child doesn't make it to the age of 24 and potentially find himself in jail or in a compromising situation because it was only the parents that touched them. That's not the case. That doesn't work. So that means that we need to pour into them, fill them up, as much of what we understand they need today with the right skills in order to get them started on the right foot. Yeah. So Dave being able to say, from a health and nutrition standpoint, here, we're going to provide this for you. You're going to get into these habits early on in your life that will allow you to understand what that looks like. And Catherine being able to be like, hey guys, go ahead and learn how to breathe. And these are coping mechanisms that are going to be able to deal with anxiety and deal with testing and deal with trauma at home and then also at school. And then Jason, you're part of the community that's actually saying, okay, I'm gonna be the gatekeeper for your education, and making sure that they're being educated with, first of all, factual things, and then the other thing being able to say, I'm gonna educate you as much as you're willing and able to consume, and then make sure that you are able to step off on a very great foot when it goes into your next chapter of your life. And that's where all of us fit into the equation. So as we wrap up, I always ask this one last question. What is the cost of a school not adopting your programs? Because I think that's when we start to notice where the rubber meets the road, or where the champions show up, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll start from the top and go around. So Catherine, what would be the cost of a school not adopting your program?
Well, let me go back to where I had written down about your percentages of the 44% in depression and the 37 percentage of anxiety and all of this. It goes back to life skills and understanding how people operate. And let's incorporate some of that in teaching life skills. And I remember going to school in home ec and, learning how to cook breakfast. Well, gosh, my mom did a beautiful job of that. I didn't need that, right? And so, it would be useful for some people, but it's just like, come on, all right, let's get with the times, and let's really understand how we all exist together in this, what I refer to as the big universal soup. because that's, I think, the basis of a lot of things that are off.
Nice. Beautiful. All right. I like that. All right, Dave, you're up.
What's the cost of the school if they don't adopt our program? I mean,
Yeah.
there's probably
For the
lots of
students.
different costs. For them, there's a financial loss to the school district. Could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. It could be millions, depending on the size of the school. Outside of that is the much worse, right? Is the money thing. The money thing is nonsense compared to the fact that you've got, unhealthy kids. You got kids with childhood diabetes. You've got mental health issues. You've got depression issues, behavioral issues, ADHD to deal with, concussions for your athletes. All of those things are going to cause problems for the children, for the school potentially, right? If you put a player back on the football field too early and that kid gets a really bad injury, that's liability. Those are things like that you just don't want to happen. I mean, and so there's a lot of preventative stuff, and you get into access to medicine and things like that. We're all about health and wellness as it relates to all areas of it.
It's good. So I understand. So sometimes it can be a challenge to answer that question. So for you, the fact that the students are not as healthy as they could be while going through their day is a really huge thing. And if we figure out that, and we know this to be true, that the health and wellness of a person can actually help to curb a lot of the behavioral issues that show up without having Maslow's hierarchy of needs being met, just the minimum stuff, right? And so that's where
many people in America don't have connectivity.
Yes.
Right. I mean, if you're a household that doesn't have internet connectivity today, I mean, you don't think about it too much if you do, but if you don't have it, I mean, think about all the things you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even pay my doctor bill. Like, I'd have to drive to the hospital if I had a hospital bill to pay my doctor bill because everything's on my chart. Right. So, I mean, little things like that you just don't think about. If you don't have that access, what do you do? And so that's a big detriment to society in general. And our students, our families are going to suffer because of it.
Absolutely. Okay, Jason, what about you?
All right. The consequences for not adopting my services is the loss of people. If you're a school board member, the possible loss of a superintendent or a principal. If you're an authorizer or a sponsor, the loss of a school or the school leader or teachers. If you're a principal, it's the loss of teachers and it's the loss of the families and the kids you're going to lose. We can help retain, help enroll, and we can help create a learning environment in which everybody wants to be a part and everybody's making progress. We can help increase everybody's engagement in the academic process. And you're going to lose that. You're going to lose that.
Yeah, I like that. So it's definitely. So I think that you can definitely start to chip away at the 35% and help to give them runway in order to see a different way through it instead of just walking away. Because I think the loss of the retention is a big one because our children are actually are having a lot of that. We see the outcome of that in their education. So for me, again, so at the end of the day, children are misplaced on a regular basis, right? As much as we like to believe they are not. We would love it. I've lost mine in Walmart. Somebody else just talked about losing their little one in another store. At the end of the day, as parents, we lose sight of one or two. So with 500 to 900, you can't do it all on your own. And so the cost is that you have to pay out through loss of life, or you have to pay out in financial restitution to the fact that you put that family through challenges they didn't need to have. So, as always, this has been a great conversation. I do appreciate everybody coming by because I think that this one was a great one for sure. This was good. Thank you, everybody, for showing up and showing out.
Thank you. Thank
you.
You're welcome. So, again, I guess we're going to keep the series going. So we'll see you same time next week. Thank you for your time today.
We appreciate the support and look forward to you visiting us again next week, same time, same place. Until then, words are power. Please remember to use them wisely. If you have an interest, like to be on our live show, please let us know and send us a direct message. And